It's gonna be a whole category actually.
If they can create a show on the History Channel that gets millions of viewers, it shows that there's an audience for this type of preservation.
History back tokens is gonna be a whole category.
So, and their exhibition is 300 objects, but the total supply of their collection is like 3,000. Unless we digitalize them, nobody would have even seen them.
Hi, in this video we'll be able to listen to some of the guests which we invite to our weekly Mr. Metaverse discussion.
Hey, Dimitri should raise his hand, and talk about how they're using digital twins.
That would be great.
Or visual, visualized and now then digitalized later. Because I think that's what I heard, at blockchains. People really love the cases where you actually have a solution for something.
I 100% agree. We focus more on practical use cases. So, Dmitry, if you can share more, it would be great.
Sure. Hello, guys. We are doing at our project, essentially just to put it shortly, we're creating digital twins of museum objects. So there are a lot of museums out there who cannot have any digital presence due to their inability to digitalize or not having the experience in that. So we kind of act as a third party who come to the museums and actually digitalize their collections, which are not available to the broader public. And we do that kind of officially and authentically, so that museums actually signs the certificate of authenticity, and everything is official. So yeah, that's kind of the thing, the step that we implemented in order to ensure that those digital twins are transparent and kind of original.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's his project seems to be about preserving history, and I was at Collision Toronto this past week, and the lead singer of Our Lady Peace was talking about recreating past musicians to create immersive experiences for fans of artists that are no longer with us. So I thought that was pretty cool for preserving history when it comes to digital twins. So I just wanted to add that piece.
It's gonna be a whole category actually. History back tokens, is gonna be a whole category of its own eventually.
So before we move to Dmitry and what he's building, Dennis, can you expand more on the history back tokens and all of that? You sparked my interest, and I bet you sparked the interest of others listening.
It's basically pretty simple. You have something that has historic value, art, or
I see what you meant.
something, yeah, and then you put it on the blockchain, and then you have you have an NFT that could include everything, the whole data for the metaverse or not, you can decide that, but the whole token is backed by history. That's why it's called the history backed tokens. And then you could do what Timothy said, etc., and then basically authenticate the origin. So that's the whole. Maybe Dimitri can elaborate and add to that.
Definitely, yes. I actually wanted to elaborate a little bit. So the way we take our take on the history back tokens is basically what kind of differentiates our tokens apart from other, let's say, NFTs, are the 3D models of every museum object that we actually digitalize, so that every little detail is actually preserved, and you can actually, and the owner can actually see all of the minor scrapes and minor details on the objects which have been left out through time. And also we're also backing the history back token with the non-physical rights. So basically, we come to the museum and we say, okay, do you guys want to digitalize your tokens and get a new revenue stream, which would be selling the non-physical rights to to their collection. And the non-physical rights is essentially just ownership rights of the collection of the historical objects in the metaverse. So imagine the museum actually keeps owning the collection of historical objects. Everything remains with them, the intellectual property, everything, and the actual physical objects. But the non-physical rights, as in the kind of rights that represent the objects in the metaverse, it gets sold alongside with the token. So that's kind of what the new holder gets. He gets the option to, let's say, rent out his Mona Lisa painting, digital Mona Lisa painting, to a virtual exhibition. Or maybe if it's a, let's say, vintage car digitalized, he can integrate into some game as an in-game asset, or anything in that regard.
I see. Interesting. And just another question is then, so in terms of where is this digital token asset can be seen? So is it built on Unity? Is it built on Unreal? Is it can be in AR interactive? So can it be placed in a geoloc location? So if you can give a bit more in depth on that, about, because I think that's one of the most important parts, is that to the AR world. So because we're going towards spatial computing with Apple and other companies going to more AR worlds. So less about just VR. So then you can have this kind of virtual object, but placed on some specific, maybe a wall on your flat, and then you geolock it so it stays there. And every time someone with these glasses walk around there, they can see that object basically. So it's like a virtual art or art piece in your home instead of like a physical art piece. So I'm curious, Dmitry, can you expand more about like in your case and what you think is the best way, in your opinion, for this kind of things?
I think that basically for our case, for now, we are not developing our own proprietary, let's say, platform or wallet solution for that kind of thing. But we're looking to collaborate with existing metaverse platforms to integrate our assets into their infrastructure, and also we're looking for wallet solutions which would be able to support the 3D integration, so that what you just mentioned with the AR functionality would be actually possible. At this point, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there is not a wallet solution that offers it yet. But for example, we know there's a solution called Ariane wallet. Maybe you've heard of it. I think it's a startup from France, which offers their own kind of infrastructure. Basically, they have their own tokenomics infrastructure, and it's like basically an OpenSea, but just with their proprietary token. And you buy their own like Ariane token, and you can buy the NFTs within their ecosystem with this token. And by integrating your let's say HBTs there, you would have to buy their token first in order to purchase them on their platform. But at the same time, why I'm mentioning that is that their wallet solution already supports like 3D assets within their wallet. So basically, you just scan the QR code to a token, or to maybe, let's say, to a real object in the museum.
If you like what you're listening right now, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. It takes a second for you to do it. It costs nothing, and it means a world to us. It shows us that we are moving in the right direction and we produce the right content. So thank you. Enjoy.
It opens up in their wallet, and it opens up with a 3D asset already. So you can actually spin it around. You can zoom into it. You can kind of inspect it from different angles. So that's kind of the latest thing which I discovered that is actually out there in the market.
I think interesting. Thanks for sharing. And maybe Timothy or Sandra would like to add something to, and maybe any questions or maybe some adding to the topic of historical preservation. That'll be great. Maybe we'll start with Timothy, and then we'll go to Alexander.
Yeah, as I mentioned, just preserving music, art, and culture is very important. There was a show on the History Channel. I think it was called like Undiscovered Worlds or something like that. I don't remember the exact name of the show, but or Ancient Worlds or something like that. I don't remember the exact name, but basically the show was about this archaeologist who would go into places where extinction for communities and culture has happened. There's always been a culture shift. There's always cultures stealing from other cultures. Like, you have pyramids all over the world, that are built differently. And, you can see like how there was like competition for, expanding your territory and promoting your own tribe. So there was a lot of gruesome things that have happened over time where cultures have completely gone extinct, right? So if we can preserve these cultures in the metaverse to really educate people about different people from all over the world and learn from each other, I think that has very great potential for that. The metaverse does. And if they can create a show on the History Channel that gets millions of viewers, then there is already it shows that there's an audience for this type of preservation. So I think that is a very strong use case scenario for the metaverse, is preserving history.
Makes sense. Alexander, what's your take on that?
I think this is definitely one of the coolest adaptations of digital or visual twins that I've seen in the metaverse space. I honestly never considered how museums might use it for historical artifacts. I think it's very cool that individuals can have them, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So this is built on the blockchain as an NFT, and then people can buy and sell it, right, Dimitri?
Yes, definitely. It's really an untapped potential of historical objects out there in the world, because, actually, just so you know, guys, 90% of museums' collections are stored in their vaults and are not actually displayed in their exhibitions. So you don't even actually realize how much cool stuff is out there unless you actually digitalize it and put it for the world to explore. So because then the problem why that is not possible with the museums is just because they have already predetermined collections for the exhibition, which are the most popular and which the public wants to see most, and they just do not want to swap it out and lose the interest of the attendees. So yeah, I mean, with the museums that we worked with, we already worked with 2 museums so far, and yeah, kind of this was the recurring topic with them, and like for this reason, for example, we worked with Devil's Museum in Kaunas, which is a museum in Lithuania. It's basically like a museum of the devils of all around the world. For example, they're like only masked in Japan. They're like South African devils. It's all tied to the mythology. It's not like a satanic type of thing. So, and their exhibition is 300 objects, but the total supply of their collection is like 3,000. So yeah, unless we digitalize them, nobody would have even seen them. So it's really an amazing untapped potential for people to actually digitalize and get into that even for the Web3 communities.
I never really realized how much was kind of behind the scenes, and I think people who just collect them individually, or even if one large private collector kind of buys up a lot of them, then creates their own like sort of metaverse museum with all of these visual twins, it would be a very cool adaptation of the space. So
yes,
kudos.
That's actually what we're building. Like that's a part of our vision is we're not only digitalizing the historical objects and just tokenizing them and auctioning them off. We're actually trying to build a like say museum metaverse where all of the objects which we tokenize would be hosted in one kind of big platform for people to see.
Yeah, I mean there are some there are a couple museum platform projects I know about the Metaverse museum platforms. If you want, you can shout to me. We can chat about that. I can maybe connect you together with them. Who are also building something similar, I would say, from my research, because we as MetaverseBay, I would say we explore around 200 platforms so far across different areas and different niches. So some of them, yes, they focus on museum parts, and I 100% agree with what you said about the vaults and part as well. It's one of the ways as well for high wealth individuals to preserve their finances, so they can also store. We have a lot of. I don't remember the numbers, but I remember there's huge numbers that a lot of our collections being stored in the vaults and not accessible to anyone. Even it's not even a museum, so it's having digital replica of that present can be really cool stuff. And also it's way secure, right? So it's hard to rob a person, get into your house if the physical possession is in vault and the digital is kind of only see with a headset. So it'll be an interesting world, I would say, to live in. You can still enjoy the art, and they are now securely stored in a secure location. We have also Yaroslav and David Joe.
Or even move them from the museum into their natural environment, right? Like recreating the history behind the artifact in the metaverse.
Yeah,
so you can actually interact
for sure.
with it 100%. In its state. So
and
there's a
there
lot
are
of
also
potential.
new ERC standards, just as a side note, like where you can authentic vision. They just presented that on blockchain. So basically, before if somebody hacked you, and then your NFT would be gone, right? So basically, the ERC standard links the NFT to a physical object, so you could basically engrave a hologram or something else, on a physical thing, like maybe like in the statue or in the bottom or whatever. And then once you scan that, then the NFT comes back to the possession of the one who scanned it. So basically, whoever is in possession of the physical object also is in possession of the digital one, and then you basically know they belong together, and it's also like verified by the blockchain, which before could not be done, because like if one was stolen, then basically everything is gone. So it's it's a matter of provenance now, and then also one of
I can bet the next.
It's more secure.
I can bet the next, the next scam option, it will be to sell somebody something and just to take it back.
Yeah, I
was just thinking of that. Because that's what they were doing with the tickets, right? When they created the mobile tickets, people would sell the QR code to multiple people, and whoever got to the gate first got in, and the rest of the people were just screwed.
Yeah,
so
that's horrible.
It's already happened.
I mean, it's always good and bad in any technology, right? We have.
Yeah, you just gotta be smart.
Topic, you raise your hand. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Andre. I just wanted to mention that it's really cool what Dimitri's doing, and one NFT project that kind of hooked me into Web3 early on, going back to kind of early 2021, was a project called 3D African Masks. And it was actually created by a 3D architect or builder named Kofi. And he actually did exactly kind of what Dimitri's talking about, which is a lot of research around African masks that not only, you know, in some cases stolen and taken to museums, but in other cases have just been kind of pushed aside for their own maybe religious reasons or whatever, made kind of taboo, right? So he went and did a lot of research into all these different traditional African masks and then actually recreated them in 3D with beautiful detail, like they're really amazing works of art. And then in the description on chain, he actually gave a breakdown of the full history, you know, where these masks have gone, and then brought them into the metaverse as well, where you can view them as 3D objects. And it was all presented so well that he actually got invited to a gallery in Germany to kind of show his 3D architecture, but they actually 3D printed some of the masks as well. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate that point, that like putting this on chain and actually having, you know, these new digital versions of historically relevant artifacts. I think, yes, it can be done off chain, but I think that the real value comes from it being in an NFT form and becoming immutable, right? Because now not only are you preserving that history, but you're actually pushing back against, you know, potentially a lot of the wrongs that have been done throughout history, and ensuring that, you know, that history can actually be told from the perspective of the indigenous people that created those artifacts, right? And once that's told on the blockchain and shared in that way, it's there forever. So I just think it's a really amazing kind of technological advancement and opportunity for people to really take ownership on the blockchain. So this is why I always try to differentiate between the Web3 blockchain or the Web3 metaverse and the rest of the metaverse, which is still cool. But I do think that having the assets on chain and having that immutability is a whole new ballgame.
It will take time. It will take time to get to there, but I think eventually we'll get there. There's way too much value in these kind of things. It's just the only thing is the costs associated with that. It might be higher than the non-Web3 metaverse platforms, so that's why it might take a bit longer until the costs, the economy of scale will kick in and all of the other things. So I think eventually we'll get there. It just feels like that from also personal experience, from the exploration of different platforms. It just feels more valuable when you can own, especially in terms of like big things, in big picture, because you can have last month I gave an example in the end of the discussion with where the governments can license the digital twins of their architecture. So for example, you can go to Egypt and visit pyramids, right? But the thing is, you cannot go on top of them. You cannot climb them for obvious reasons, because it's damaging to the building. There's risk involved. There are all the other things. So kind of you have limited experience because you cannot just go and do whatever there. But you can do this in like a virtual environment. So if you can build a digital replica, digital twin of the pyramid, and then have it in virtual life, and if you add all the experiences once the technology is there, you can kind of even climb it, so you have even better experience in virtual life than in physical. But the thing is, anyone can then make this replica. So there's two ways to go. We either can democratize everything, and then everyone can build hundreds of pyramids, and then you can create a huge market, and then you have competing pricing and different experience. I mean, you can do that, or you can go with a licensing thing that those who own the cultural heritage, so those who own the Pyramid of Giza, those who own the Louvre or something like that, they are licensing, or they are building this kind of place, and only they are allowed to have that because they have a proof of ownership based on the physical thing. So then the government can get involved, and we'll have an Egypt metaverse platform where you can go and visit digitally Egypt, and you can travel to Egypt and all that stuff. And once we become, I mean, that's too far of the future, but at some point, I still believe we will become an interplanetary species. We'll move to Mars, we'll move to other planets. So it'll be kind of hard to move from Mars, if you were born Mars, to Egypt to visit for a trip. It will take time. So having this visit in digital world will be easier and more practical. It's a bit too far in the future, I would say, but that's another use case. We're not there yet, but that's something to think about. Still watching? Thank you. So if you like the content, consider subscribing to our newsletter for more exclusive content. You can expect there primarily news reviews related to the topics of the videos like the one you just listened to, and more educational content. So link in the comments. Every Monday, you will get a newsletter directly to your inbox. Thanks for watching, and probably you might like this video.